Hi everybody, it's Claire from Art Journal Love with another project for Grafix Arts. I'm going to be using these materials in this project from Grafix. I'm going to be using Grafix Chipboard in natural and Grafix Shrink film in the sanded variety. This project is all about bunting. I'm going to be creating some different types of bunting to use in different places using these two products from Grafix. I think the shrink film is one of my favourite things to use. I just love how the effects that you can achieve with it. So I'm starting off with the Grafix chipboard in natural. It's the medium weight. It's really quite sturdy. It's a lovely product to work with, and this nice craft colour as well is great for making those colours pop, particularly if you wanted to leave some calm space on your designs as well. So I'm starting off adding some paint. These are Amsterdam acrylic paints, but any acrylic paint would work well on this. If you're wanting to do techniques like reductive stenciling, then I would suggest adding some clear gesso first, as these kind of surfaces can be a little bit thirsty. So I'm going in with some pinks and purples, some of my favourite colours, and just adding some colour onto the chipboard to start off with. I'm going to be painting both sides of the chipboard as well. And then I'm just adding a little bit of a lighter contrast colour in there, so a nice pale blue, just to start to kind of bring a bit more interest to the background and add some better contrast. This lovely stencil is from Darkroom Door. I love using circles in my art. And here I'm going to start adding in some stenciling, and I'm just going to use the colours that I've started off with initially so that the background is all nice and cohesive and kind of flows together, using a blending tool to get the paint on through the stencil. Now I'm just going to make some marks with my paintbrush. So again, I'm just using the same purple that I used in the first instance to get those colours on the background, and just to start to introduce some mark making onto the board as well. Now, of course, I'm just going in with a different brush and painting some circles onto there too. So again, I'm just playing really, just letting loose with a bit of mark making. I just want to create a really fun, interesting background because this is going to be cut up into bunting. So one of the things that you can do when you are creating things like this, because you are going to be cutting it up and making it smaller, you can go as crazy as you like with your background, because quite often when you make things smaller they work even better. So I am literally just getting all the colours out and playing, filling in circles, adding more colours, more marks, more patterns, just to build up a really interesting background. So I'm finishing off with some red hearts on there. I've got all sorts of marks going on, just building up those levels of interest. And next I am going to add some stamping. So you can see I've worked on both sides. I've kept both sides the same. You don't have to do that. I mean, you could just as easily paint the back one plain colour. But I thought I was going to hang this in the garden. So I wanted it to look nice from both sides. So I've created a template using a piece of card, and I'm just going to draw around that a few times just so that I can cut some of those flag shapes out. And this was the easiest way that I thought I could get that kind of uniform look. So I've managed to fit, I think there were 4 along the top and then another 4. Once I'd cut them out, I'm just edging them using some black Archival ink. It's just kind of finishing them off quite nicely. And then I'm using a crocodile to punch some holes into the top so that I can hang them up using some really nice bright coloured wool. So before I use the wool to hang them up, I am going to add some splatters. Of course, you've got to do splatters. It's, you know, it just goes without saying, doesn't it? This is a Posca pen with a neon pink in. I'm adding some splatters onto there. I love using a pop of neon pink on my projects. And this is the lovely wool that I mentioned, so I'm just going to cut a length of this and then start to thread the bunting on. And that was it hanging in the garden once it was finished, nice and fun. So now I'm on to using some shrink film. I'm going to use this sanded one here. Grafix have a lot of different types of shrink film, and I have used quite a few. So here I've just put the shrink film onto my desk, and I'm using some acrylic ink from Davenport, and I'm just dropping some colours on, and then I'm just using a brush washing it in between each colour and just pulling those colours around on the shrink film. I was trying not to let them touch, but it didn't really matter too much if they did, because they do create some really beautiful colours. So it was a really hot day when I did this project. This dried really quickly. Obviously you have to let this air dry because it's on shrink film. If you apply heat to it, it is just going to go small. So next I'm adding some stamping. So you can see I have a similar process for creating on this shrink film as I did to on the chipboard. Some splatters using white gloss from Dina Wakley, and also some nice bright pink splatters using Stoked, also from Dina Wakley. So then once it was dry, I cut one of the sheets in half using my guillotine, and then I've just cut out some flag shapes. So I didn't measure these, I'm just doing this by eye. I wasn't too worried about these being all uniform because they're going to be shrinking down to be a lot smaller. I kept the offcuts because I thought I could make some more bunting using those. I didn't really want to waste anything at all. Again, using the crocodile to pop some holes in those, and then my heat tool and a ruler just to help me with the shrinking process, because sometimes they do curl and can stick to themselves. So just having a ruler there just to pop them on and flatten it down was quite useful. So much fun. It's just like being a magician using shrink film. I love it. So I did this process for all of those flags, and then threaded them onto a piece of string. And then I had these bits left over, so I decided that I was going to cut them into more flag shapes. So I ended up with some quite interesting ones. This kind of happened by accident. So I took one piece and chopped the bottom off, and then cut another triangle out the bottom, and ended up with so many different bits. And you can see these ones are shrinking much smaller. But I was able to create even more types of bunting. So I've got these little sort of pointed flags, I've got more triangle flags, and again I just thread those onto some string. This is actually some waxed cotton that I use for bookbinding, but it worked really well for this. So I decided I was going to use some of the bunting to decorate the front of a folder that I made for Grafix Arts using some of their plastic. So I popped that on there, and then I've also added some into the journal on a journal page that I created up at the top of the page. It's a really fun way to decorate a page. So all of those different types of bunting made using fabulous products from Grafix, using their chipboard and their shrink film, and I've been able to pop them in different places to decorate journals and the garden, and even a shelf in my studio. So thanks for watching. If you want some more inspiration from other amazing artists, head to the Grafix website and check out their blog, and I hope to see you again soon.